G'day boys and girls, welcome back into the studio, and for the second video in the Gel Blaster Basics mini series, I suppose you could call it. Now this one is all about eye protection. Now the reason I'm denoting pretty much an entire video to this is because it is kind of important. The reality of the gel blasting hobby, sport, whatever you want to call it, is that the only real way to get injured from the blasters themselves is from getting hit in the eye, the naked eye. Now the damage is probably going to change depending on the person, the blaster, how far away, all those sort of things, but I don't imagine the damage that it would actually do would be massively permanent unless you already had a pre-existing condition. I'm not a doctor though, so I could be wrong. The easiest thing is just like any other sort of device that propels objects at speed over distance, just play it safe. It's as simple as that. It's better to be safe than sorry, as the old saying goes. It's pretty straightforward. So what we're going to look at today is the basics on what you should and shouldn't use and why those things are sort of the case. Now, the first thing I want to go through is a popular choice that most people will have is, I've got a pair of sunnies, I'll just wear them. Now, they might be okay initially, but the problem is they're not designed to take any kind of impact. They're just not built for it. So a gel at the right range or the right time could knock one of the lenses out and then cause other damage and problems. None of that, but some people are running around with $400 or $500 pairs of sunglasses, and do you really want to drop it and break it? That's a different story. Obviously, that's personal preference. Personally, I'm all good. The other reason why is because, now this is a pair of my normal reading glasses. However, I'm going to use them to denote the same thing, because in a nutshell, they are the same basic thing. Now, if you have a look at the front on, so there, yep, pretty good coverage over the eyes. Perfect. However, when you look at the side on, there's nothing there. So the reason why I don't recommend sunglasses is exactly that. There's no protection from any sort of sideways deflection. Something hits that and bounces in, or you turn your head to the side and you have to get shot from the side, it's going to go straight past these. These sort of things, not suitable. I highly recommend don't even bother. Now, like I mentioned in the previous episode when we went through the MP7, you do normally get a pair of safeties with all of your blasters. Now, they're not good. Like, for example, that's pretty piss poor, if I'm entirely honest. And not only that, but looking through it, it's just wavy. These are warped, and yeah, they're not good. These will get you by initially. I also don't think these are impact rated because I can't see anything on there to denote that it actually would be. I think they're just a basic pair of plastic glasses. So I don't recommend using these long term. Initially, they'll do the job, but otherwise I wouldn't bother. The first real option that I would go into is work safeties. So these are things you can pick up for a couple of dollars at any hardware store realistically. I got these at Bunnings for about $8 because I went to Bunnings and they're a DeWalt brand. No, I'm not sponsored by DeWalt. God, can you imagine the stuff I could do if I was? The reason why these are good is they are actually impact rated. They have to be impact rated by Australian standards. Not only that, they are fully wrapping around. So if I take these off and put them on, there is no way anything's realistically going to get into me unless I go like this and someone puts the blaster barrel right there pointed up into my eye. Most cases, that's going to be near impractical, practically impossible. So these are great. Cheap, see clearly, not a problem. And not only that, but because they're not necessarily right up against my face, they're not going to fog up as much as some goggles will, which is especially important in Australia where you're dealing with extreme temperatures. Now, the next step up from that would be a full-on set of mono goggles or ski goggles, that sort of thing, which are fully enclosed and whatnot. They're a great option as well for the exact same reasons. Nothing's getting in there. The problem with those is that because they are fairly enclosed, when you start running around and sweating, you get hot, it's going to start fogging up very badly. You can get anti-fog sprays and wipes and whatnot, but to be honest, once you do it once, they're pretty crap for it. They constantly fog up. That's the reason why I personally don't run mono goggles. I've used them at work all the time. I know what they're like. Running around in them, I'm alright. I'm good. Another option you do have is paintball masks. Now, paintball masks, you can pick up fairly cheaply on eBay, and they're properly impacted masks, and they're a full-on mask. So that way, if you get hit anywhere in the face at close range, it's not going to bother you. You can even get full-on helmets. Now, some of them can get quite expensive, as you can imagine, so I can understand why people wouldn't want to do that. But you know that if you buy it from an Australian and it's tested to Australian standards, that thing's never going to break, not under an impact of a gel blaster. So it's pretty safe. If you've got young kids that you have enjoyed playing this, might be a good idea to just get a couple of cheap ones, and that way they're going to be fine no matter what. The biggest injury that most people are likely to face in gel blasting is rolling their ankle or something because they've tripped over when they were running. Cue to me tripping over at least once on camera, a couple times off camera, thankfully. That's where you're more likely to injure yourself. The gel blasters themselves aren't going to do anything in reality. Now, the next option you have is, thankfully there's another sport which is somewhat similar but currently still illegal in Australia, and that's Airsoft. Now, Airsoft sell a lot of stuff that you can buy and you can use for this, and it's perfectly suitable. You can get all sorts of glasses, all sorts of goggles, masks, all of that great stuff, and you can get it fairly cheap because a lot of it's made in China, which is now one of our neighbours, really. So there is that option as well, especially if you wanted to get like mock Oakleys, such as what soldiers use, that sort of thing, because you want to look like that, you want to look cool. There's plenty of options out there, and they're not all that expensive. The other thing that does allow for is similar to these, prescription glasses. So if you have to wear glasses in general, or you prefer to wear them, like me, because of certain reasons, then they're going to be a great option because you can actually get prescription lenses for them. Now, these are prescription safety glasses. I wear these in all my videos, because of course I do. They're fully designed to wrap around, and they also have these blocks here so nothing can get in the side, because they're actually designed for work. They're, work in a workshop, that sort of thing, not gel blasting. So they're quite encompassing. And because they're prescription, I can see everything fine. Now, don't get me wrong, for a long time, and especially when I first started, I ran around with a pair of Airsoft style goggles where the goggle plate actually sat out from the mounting on my face, so there was a heap of air gaps. Now, they're great, especially when you can get them for about $15 to $20, and you get a tinted, a clear, and a yellow pair of lenses for them, so that way you can swap them out depending on the situation for what works best. The problem was, for me, I squint a lot, so I was getting headaches and whatnot, and getting these things made life so much better. The other thing I did there, which if I can find some video footage of it in the past or even a photo, I'll put it up so I can show you what I've done. I like to wear masks. Now, at the old field we used to play at, it was very close quarter range. So getting shot at the face from 5 meters away was annoying because it happened all the time. So one of these masks won't set you back much, anywhere between $5 to $20 depending on where you get it. It's a very simple arrangement. Elastic straps over your face like that. Now, in the case of these glasses here, it works perfectly. They don't interact at all. What you will see, and not only that, fully breathable. So when you're running around, you don't have problems breathing. So I'll just show you what that looks up close. Just a mesh. It's very basic with an elastic strap. Goes around your nose up there and under your chin. However, when I was wearing the goggles, they interfered a lot. So what I ended up doing was I cut the straps off of the back of the mask, and I put a couple cable ties through the top of the mask into the bottom of the goggles. So it was one unit that ran off the strap from the goggles. The problem was, though, when you ran, because I also had a piece of netting over the top here just to break up the image, and because I could, which again, I'll show you because I'm sure I'll be able to find a photo of it, it got very hot, especially when you ran. So these are fine when you're running because your face, the heat's getting away from you, so you're expelling the heat, you're able to keep cool, and you can breathe clearly. The big thing with, if you put anything in front of your face when you're running, it's going to puff you out because you're going to be forcing yourself to breathe in more because of the difficulty of getting the air through whatever you're wearing. So that's always something to consider with any sort of face protection. Paintball masks have a similar thing, but they're usually not too bad because they usually sit out a couple of centimeters from your face. Obviously, the cheaper brands may not do that, especially if they're a fairly full plate, but something to be aware of. So that's about all I've got on eye protection. A relatively short one because in reality, it's an easy subject to cover. There's not a huge amount there to go through. The main takeaways I want to tell you is the original ones you get with any blaster are shit. They're not impact rated in reality, so use them initially, but I would replace them as soon as possible. Once you replace them with something semi-decent that doesn't cost all that much, you should never have to replace them again, if not for a long time. An easy option is a pair of work glasses. You can, like I said, buy these fairly cheaply at any hardware store, or some people are no doubt going to relieve their workplace of a set because workplaces generally pay a couple of dollars for them each. Not a problem. Again, those are more expensive because it's branded. The cheaper ones that shops get, not too bad. Prescription glasses. Now, if you do have to wear prescription glasses for anything, then you're going to be shit out of luck, like usually with everything. So obviously you can get prescription safeties. They can cost a bit depending on how you do it. You can get inserts for goggles, that sort of thing, or you can try and get monogoggles, which actually allow for frames to sit under them, which is, there's plenty of them out there. Again, they're not all that expensive, so there's definitely options there. Goggles, good, especially with young children or whatnot. If it's all you can get, or you want something that sits firm on your face, because nothing's getting past that. The only problem is, I found, you do heat up a bit and can fog easily. Paintball masks are an option, or even helmets, especially if you've got young kids. I would recommend just buy a couple of cheap paintball masks, and that way just tell them you can play with that every time. If they accidentally get shot up close in the face, it won't matter. It's as simple as that. So they're tested to a very high standard usually, as long as they're Australian standard. They'll be perfectly fine. They're never going to break for doing any of this. That's about it. Let me know your thoughts below. If you've got other options, tell me what you run down below, or any ideas you might have for cool setups. You can get full-on helmet kits and whatnot that go together, and there's some wacky stuff out there. So definitely let me know what you think. Let me know what you run and what you prefer, what you found better. I'm in Queensland, so it gets quite hot here. That's why these are great. But otherwise, comment, like, share, all that stuff. And I'll catch us on the next one, where we'll be looking at different clothing and uniform options. Yay, shopping montage.
She's on the phone, but she's staying on Wilshire Boulevard. Old dreams dying hard. He wants you to return this love.